All right, we are back with another special edition for you. Our special guest is a world renowned music and entertainment executive, manager extraordinaire, and the author of Sound and Fury. Please welcome Alan Niven. Welcome, Alan.
Well, hello, Jay.
What's a long time coming, this book? And again, I know, as they say in the industry, if you had $1 for everybody who said you should write a book, you wouldn't have to write a book. You know? It's pretty amazing.
Uh, I'm not certain about that, Jay, because I have a suspicion that the monkey would have still been on my back, even if I could have been living in a castle in Scotland, and I would have had certain individuals going, "You need to write the book." For me, it was a chore. It was daunting, and I started the process years ago and actually got three-quarters of the way through a manuscript and was not enjoying the process at all. So I decided I'd send the manuscript as it was to somebody who I thought might give me an excuse to put it on a shelf. I was hoping they'd come back and say, "Don't want this book out there." And instead, Slash said to me, "It's fucking brilliant, finish it." So at that point, I had no excuse. I just had to put it on a shelf, and I did for ages. One of the things is that I do not like rock and roll books. To me, they're boring. They all have the same story arc, and only the names change.
Right.
You start off with a band that's all for one and one for all. Success, money, girlfriends and wives come along. Um, the band falls apart, and then you have self-serving recrimination and blame pointing for the dissolution of the band, and that's usually a rock and roll book. And it took me a long time to come to a simple observation. And that observation is, Jay, I'm just an old jukebox now. And I sit in the corner of the kitchen, and somebody might pour me a glass of port, and I take that as an obligation to tell a tale. So obviously, I eventually got to the point of saying, if you're going to do a book, just tell stories. Avoid the tiresome chronological history and the personal early life and all that palaver. Just tell stories, because that's all people really want to hear. And if you tell the stories well enough and pick the right stories, you get an indication of who's who and what they do and why they do it.
Well, it's amazing. Obviously, from Great White to GNR and Aerosmith and so many other chapters of the book, The Cult, and my gosh, it goes on and on. It is a fascinating
Have you read
read.
it?
I have read it.
Oh
I
my word, you're one of the first.
I love that. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I got the advance, and I can only anticipate the buzz that people will find out because, the industry is, like the Wizard of Oz, behind the stage and the lights and the smoke bombs and the pyro. There's a whole nother world. And most people, unless they've come up in it, like we have, they have no idea. They hear the horror stories, the lawsuits, the breakups, the addictions, and all that, but they don't understand the strategies and the playmaking. And I have so much respect for you, as we've spoken before, about how you really made success happen, not only for Great White, but GNR and everything you've been a part of. There's a real impulse, instinctual strategy that you've built over the years, and I love hearing about it. So the book
Well,
is
Jay, I had one distinct advantage over most people, maybe a couple of advantages. One is that I was not your typical 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. part of a management company on Sunset Strip and did not have that approach. For me, management was an occupation, a way of life. It's 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's a way of life. But the other advantage I had was that I have an English accent. And when you go into a room of American executives, they tend to be impressed by an English accent and they think you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it is an amazing story, and certainly will stand apart on.
Jay, can you get on your mic a little bit
Yeah,
more?
I'm right
There
here.
you go. You're
Yeah.
perfect.
No, I know that this will stand out in a sea of, biopics and normal books. I've got shelves full of them, and yeah, no, there's very little you find out, in those. And I can't stand biopics either because if the people are still alive, why am I watching an actor play somebody? I'd rather watch the documentary. I'd rather watch the archival footage. The photographers and the documentary filmmakers are going to bring me more of their reality as opposed to some actor, reading a script. I hate biopics.
You didn't like the Dylan film?
Oh, the Dylan film was a little different. That is one of the exceptions to the rule. And of course, the Queen movie, I enjoyed that. But I'm saying, of course, Freddie was gone. Dylan is still with us. But your typical biopic. I just prefer documentaries over your traditional drama, especially if they're
I,
still alive.
I entirely agree with you. But obviously, we're in an era now where what is left of the record company business fundamentally profits on what was created between, say, let's call it 1957 to 1990. And basically, what they do, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the likes of UMG virtually give the music away to streaming sites,
Yes.
which they own or have major ownership in. So the people who actually created the music don't get rewarded. And UMG, for example, profits to the tune of $1 million every hour of every day through streaming. So what they're doing with something like the Dylan movie is obvious. They're going back and trying to regenerate interest in old catalog and trying to get contemporary generations to connect to what he was doing in the early 60s so as that they can keep profiting at $1 million an hour.
No question. Well, the book is Sound and Fury, and it is an incredible book by our special guest, Alan Niven.